encouraging the MPs in Ruapula, Northern, and Mchinga to buy tractors using the CDF so that those people there can produce more maize and export it. I thank you.
I think you wanted to say acting Minister of Commerce.
Commerce instead of agriculture. I thank you.
So, really, the minister you mentioned, maybe because you are close to him, so looking at his face. However, also what was contained in the question is something else. But the minister can still shed light. I think the member is overwhelmed with the CDF.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And honorable member, thanks very much for that very, very important question, which hinges on production. Honorable members, this question is very important. If you look up north there, Kenya wants 1 million tons of maize right now. We do not have that. So we need to up the production. And the way to up the production, honorable member, is exactly what you have said. Will allow members of parliament to encourage the constituents to apply for tractors. Use that money, CDF, buy tractors, go into production, and export. 1 million is required in Kenya. And that's a lot of money. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I think the honorable member for Bambashe, as the head, he has to produce more maize now, using the CDF. The honorable member for Mukushi South will be the last.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Minister, you said that you have put in mechanism in order to ensure that there is smooth movement of trucks that are locally transporting the maize and the maize meal. Can you share with us some of the mechanisms that you have put in place to ensure that there is no delay at Nkumbi in as far as movement of these trucks that are delivering maize meal and maize? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The acting Minister of Commerce, Trade and Industry.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And Honorable, thank you very much for that question. You see, if I divulge everything, we are letting the smuggler. You see, we are talking about the smuggler. He's a very, very clever human being. But I'll let you in on how we are trying to monitor. Digital. Okay, we are using digital system to monitor. So, for example, we have to check with the Ministry of Agriculture on the validity or authenticity of that document that they are carrying around. So we check with that. Apart from that, we alert and sensitize those people at the border to ensure that what we tell them is actually what is there. And if it's local, they will ensure that that local maize offloads at a place that has been declared. So if you declare that's local maize and you are going to offload it at X shop, the X shop should get that commodity and not Y or towards the border so that you smuggle. So that's what we are trying to do as much as possible to ensure there's no smuggling and to ensure that if there's any exportation of the commodity, it's legal and benefits the Zambian citizen. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Next question, the honorable member for Nakonde.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Question number 185.
The Acting Minister of Water Development and Sanitation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Simumba, Member of Parliament for Nakonde, is asking the Minister, A, whether the government is aware that there has been a critical shortage of water in the last 2 weeks in the following areas in Nakonde parliamentary constituency. A, Mukuma, B, Katozi, C, Old Nakonde, and D, Town Center. And B, if so, what urgent measures are being taken to resolve the water crisis and prevent waterborne diseases? Mr. Speaker, in response to the question asked by Honorable Simumba, the Honorable Member of Parliament for Nakonde constituency, I wish to inform the House that the answer to A is that government is aware that there is a critical shortage of water in Mukuma, Katozi, Old Nakonde, and Town Center under Nakonde parliamentary constituency. The critical shortage of water in the above-named areas has been caused by low rainfall experienced in Nakonde in the current rain season and has been compounded by the high siltation of the Old Nakonde Dam. B, Mr. Speaker, the following are the urgent measures being undertaken to resolve the water crisis and prevent an outbreak of waterborne diseases. Number one, government with support from the African Development Bank is currently implementing a water supply improvement project in Nakonde district under the integrated small. Honorable Chitotela is disturbing me, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, government with support from the African Development Bank is currently implementing a water supply improvement project in Nakonde district under the integrated small towns water supply and sanitation project. The scope of works of the project includes, among others, the rehabilitation of the water treatment plant and desilting of the Old Nakonde Dam. The project is expected to be completed in April 2023. Number two, government resumed the implementation of the rescoped Nakonde Water Supply Improvement Project that began in 2015 but stalled due to lack of funding. The project scope includes the drilling of a commercial borehole in Mwenzo area to supplement water supply in the district. This project is expected to be completed during the second quarter of 2023. Three, government is also exploring other potential water sources, including the Chambeshi River, which is located over 100 kilometers away from Nakonde district as an alternative source of water. And finally, Mr. Speaker, I would like to inform members of the House that the Ministry of Water Development and Sanitation, through Chambeshi Water and Sanitation Company, has put in place measures to continue supplying clean and safe water to our people in Nakonde district by conducting water quality surveillance in order to prevent the outbreak of waterborne diseases. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
The Honorable Member for Chilovi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The people of Chilovi would like to find out from the Minister, bearing in mind that Nakonde is not only catering for people that pass through that point as a transit point, which is one of the busiest points in the country, meaning that lodges and many other factors are supposed to be supplied by water to prevent waterborne diseases. What is the current volume of water per day as it stands? And since you have put in those measures, are you likely, yes, you don't know anything, young girl. Yes. So, per day, then as it stands, what is the scaling up? Is that project meant to scale up the water volume, which is supplied per day?
The Honorable Minister.
May I thank the Honorable Member for Chilubi for these questions. Obviously, he asked about the volume. I may not have the figure. I will need to consult. And indeed, there are a lot of people passing through that point. And it will be very important that we scale up. What are scaling up measures? I think in my statement, Mr. Speaker, I was very, very clear that one of the measures being done is desilting. I think for the benefit of the honorable member who clearly is not an engineer, desilting means increasing the volume. So basically, honorable member of parliament, desilting, once that reservoir is desilted, it will be able to hold much more water. Yeah, additionally, I think the Chambeshi Water, the Minister of Water and Sanitation through Chambeshi Water is also looking at getting more water from Chambeshi River. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honorable member for Nakonde.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Minister. And I'm happy, Minister, that you have mentioned the Africa Development Bank funded the project in Nakonde, which is putting up water supply infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, however, without a sustainable water source, this infrastructure cannot achieve its intended objective. Mr. Speaker, also I've observed that under the same project, the ablution block has been constructed at Ulongo, but without the treatment facility. My question also goes to the minister. Why can't you look for the funds and inject into the ongoing project and develop a well field for the short-term measure and also for a long-term measure? You source water from Chambeshi River so that the people of Nakonde can have a permanent solution. I submit, Mr. Speaker.
The acting minister of water development.
Yeah, I want to thank the member of parliament for Nakonde. Actually, he's said what I was going to say himself. I'm glad he's very much aware what the ministry is doing there. Indeed, one of the immediate solutions technically in that place is to desilt rather than get water from Chambeshi River, which is about 100 kilometers away. However, as he stated himself, we are looking at getting water from Chambeshi because I think it's a much more reliable source. But given the high costs and the high capital input needed, we believe this is a long-term measure. Just to assure the member of parliament that indeed, as even the Chilubi member of parliament has stated, Nakonde is a special case. It's a transit place. The issue of supply of water there is critical because people are moving from one country to another. There's a lot of water bodies nearby there. So the chance of waterborne diseases is very, very high. To assure you, sir, that indeed one of the measures which has already been done is to revive that project which had stalled initially. African Development Bank is already there, and the ministry has made a case to ensure that more funding is, we provide more funding to Nakonde. So we're doing everything possible, Member of Parliament. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honorable member for Mukushi South.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Minister, the honorable member for Nakonde has indicated that there is critical shortage of water. And you have indicated that the African Development Bank is doing a project which is going to finish in April. Can you share with this House, in the interim, in order to have a constant flow of water in these two areas, what has government put in? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The acting minister of water development and sanitation.
Thank you very much, honorable member from Mukushi, for that important question. But again, I think it's the same answer. Remember, we've revived the efforts which were previous there. ADB is in place. Desilting will be there. But one of the critical things we thought should be done as quickly as possible is to ensure that we guarantee the quality of water there. The quantum of water will be guaranteed as soon as the desilting measures have been completed. So we'll do everything possible to ensure that our people of Nakonde are supplied with quality water. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honorable member from Frela will be the last one.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Minister, the critical water shortage that has hit Nakonde is not the only place. Across the country, there is a very critical shortage of clean water. Now, Honorable Minister, what is contributing to this critical shortage partly is that many of the projects to alleviate the water problems that were started by the PF government have stalled in the last 18 months. So the progress has been very slow. What assurance are you giving the people of Nakonde that that project funded by the African Development Bank and by extension the rest of the country, that there is going to be close supervision of the many water projects so that they deliver the expected end time across the country so that people can have access to clean water? Thank you.
The Acting Minister of Water Development and Sanitation.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member, for that very, very important question. And I cannot agree more when you say this is a problem across the length and breadth of our great country. Infrastructure projects which will guarantee provision of water to our citizens, really we should fund it, and we should put more funding to it, because water is life, water is critical for the well-being of our people. In this particular project, Honorable Member of Parliament, which is being supported by ADB, government has made sure and will make sure that there will be close supervision. I'm sure we've been coming to this House and promising that all projects which will be undertaken, quality will be maintained, the cost will be within acceptable limits, and that they will be done timelessly. So these three principles are principles which the New Dawn government will ensure that we espouse and we stick to. So be assured that the project will be done within cost and within the stated period of time. Honorable Member and Mr. Speaker, I thank you for, I thank the member.
Thank you. There's a point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I raise one point of order according to our standing order 65B. And this point of order is towards the Member of Parliament for Mufurira. Mr. Speaker, we are always encouraged to be truthful in whatever we say on the floor of the House. Mr. Speaker, the Minister, Acting Minister of Water, has just alluded to the fact that the project, this water project which was being undertaken in Nakonde, stalled in 2015 due to lack of funds. And Mr. Speaker, 2015, the PF was in government. But Mr. Speaker, in raising on his question, the Member of Parliament for Mufurira has alluded to the fact that this project, most of the projects for underwater, has stalled during these 18 or 20 months of UPND being in power. When in fact the minister has clearly indicated that this project in Nakonde stalled in 2015 under PF. Is he in order, Mr. Speaker, to mislead this House? I speak your ruling.
Order. Thank you for the point of order. The honorable member from Furila is out of order. Order, let me guide. I think when the minister speaks, he speaks what is pertaining, because the minister speaks from an informed position. But I'm making a ruling. The minister, when responding to the question about the said project, he gave background. And the minister was straight. He said this project stalled in 2015. And the point of order he rose on was against the same background, 2015. Under the circumstances, the member of parliament from Furila is out of order. Let's make progress. And our senior member of the House is arguing when he knows the rules very well. Now I know he loves the politics. Next question. Questions for oral answer, understanding order 74. The honorable member for Chifunaburi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The said question is overtaken because it is one of the projects that we are doing under the 2022 CTF. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question, the honorable member for Kalabo Central.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Question number 187.
The honorable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the honorable member for Kalabo is asking the Minister of Health Sorry, Mr. Speaker, I only have the answer here on my paper, not the question. Let me get my iPad. Thank you. The Honourable Member of Parliament is asking the Minister of Health whether government will rehabilitate the Kalabo District Hospital this year 2023 using CDF funds from Kalabo Central and Liua constituency. Sorry, Mr. Speaker. My apologies. Thank you. Thank you. The Honourable Member is asking the Minister of Health whether government has any plans when government will rehabilitate the following infrastructure in Kalabo District. 1, Kalabo District Hospital, and B, staff houses at the same hospital. Our response, Mr. Speaker, is as follows. Government will rehabilitate the Kalabo District Hospital this year, 2023, using the constituency development funds from Kalabo Central and Liua constituencies. To be, Mr. Speaker, the staff houses that got burnt in October 2022 will be rehabilitated this year, 2023, through the Disaster Management Unit under the Office of the Vice President. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Follow-up question. Honorable Member for Kalabo Central.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I sufficiently received the response from the Honorable Minister. Mr. Speaker, my concern from the question is It's in two parts. Yes, it is true that there has been concerted effort from the two constituencies, but the amount is not enough to cover the whole hospital, meaning only part of the hospital will be dealt with. The hospital position, Mr. Speaker, is very bad. So the part which is remaining on the hospital needs renovation. That is one. The staff houses, the position and the condition of the staff houses, I wouldn't even say they are dilapidated. So the workers there, they are under distress. So what is the government doing? Other than the one house which was burnt, in fact, there are two. There are two houses. But those are not the only houses which need renovation, Honorable Minister. If you were to visit the whole compound, the only answer, Honorable Speaker, is to replace, to shift those workers to new structures. However, in the meantime, what can the government do to come to the service of those workers? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Honorable, for your follow-up question. I do sympathize with the situation on the ground, except that some additional information to assist would be as follows. One staff house got burnt, I'm aware, in October 2022. The hospital had put it in their plan to rehabilitate that particular house, but luckily DMMU requested to rehabilitate the house on behalf of the hospital. The BOQs were handed over, and DMMU is doing the procurement currently. So if I look at this answer, I'm thinking that the hospital had put it in their plan to rehabilitate one. Maybe that plan to rehabilitate one, that those resources which they had planned for could also now go towards the other houses the Honorable MP is talking about. However, the male medical ward, X-ray department, children's ward, OPD, and kitchen were earmarked for rehabilitation through the 2022 CDF Kalabo Central and Liua constituencies allocation of 1.6 million, now reduced to about 1.3 million. The procurement is being done through CDF, and due to the high threshold beyond the districts, it's being done centrally. Currently, the hospital is doing repairs on the sewer system, plumbing works, and painting in the male ward, children's ward, and OPD using their own resources from the grants and NEMA funds. So I want to believe this is what is currently being done. But going forward, let's see how these repairs, how far these repairs will go. And then we can look at the current budget under rehabilitation and see whether there can be a possibility, Mr. Speaker, for central government to work with the provincial and district administration in Kalabo and see how we can still support them for further works just to improve some of the concerns that have been raised by the Honorable Member of Parliament for Kalabo. Except, like I've said, you can see that something is going on there, something is happening. So let's see, Honorable Member of Parliament, how the situation will be after those works that are being done. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Kalabo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to urge the district administration to be very factual. They know that I live with them. That, Honorable Minister, I don't know what I can say. The district director of health knows very well that I live with them. I stay with them. We interact. If I was a magician, Mr. Speaker, I would have taken the minister right now to that ward which they are untruthfully telling the minister. If you are to enter that ward, Honorable Speaker, and then somebody will tell you that this is Zambia, you would question, where is the Zambia here? There's no the renovation they're talking about is the side ward where those who are subscribing to NIMA are occupying. Surely, would we classify a side ward to be the ward? The English that I was taught, Mr. Speaker, a side ward is just a part of the main ward. So, the hospital, Honorable Minister, is in a deplorable. Me, if I had my own resources, I would have demolished that hospital and come up with a new one because it is old and dilapidated. Let them, you urge them that they should be telling you the truth. They know I live with them, so they can't tell you things which are as if I'm not there. Maybe they forgot, Honorable Minister, that I live with them. Maybe they forgot. So that part, just forget, Honorable Minister. There's no word that they are repairing. Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Health.
I think there's no question there. I'm just being informed that the Honorable Member of Parliament lives with these people, and whatever information they've given us according to himself is not sufficient enough, and that maybe what needs to be done is I'll ask that they take pictures of this whole hospital. He's suggesting that we must demolish the hospital. Maybe he's also suggesting I fly there. So, God willingly, I'll visit Kalabo Hospital and see what needs to be done. But like I've said, on a serious note, Honorable Member of Parliament, clearly this response shows that your money from CDF for both constituencies is going to be used to make some rehabilitation, except that those rehabilitations are temporal measures, just to keep the hospital going. But long term, you are suggesting that we need serious rehabilitation works of the entire hospital. I would still agree, because I know, depending on when that hospital was built, the number of hospitals that really are death trap, just like the Kitwe District Hospital. I went there, and personally, I said this is not a good building. It's actually a danger. But we can't do everything in 1 year. What is important is that we acknowledge that, and we are desirous to ensure that we continue to build, to rehabilitate where necessary, and to build new structures where necessary. So going forward, I pray that and hope that we can look at Kalabo District Hospital. You remind me of the story which talked about this judge who didn't fear anybody, not even God. But when this woman or man kept pestering him as a judge, he said, let me deal with this situation so that this woman stops bothering me. The Honorable Member of Parliament for Kalabo has been pushing, so hopefully soon I should be able to visit Kalabo so that he stops bothering me too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next question. The Honorable Member for Kanchivia.
Mr. Speaker, question 188. Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. And the Honorable Member for Kanchivia, Honorable Sunday Chanda, is asking the Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development the following questions. A, when construction of the following bridges in Kanchivia parliamentary constituency will commence? 1, Ntunta, and 2, Mungonga. And the second question, what the cause of delay in commencing the project is. Mr. Speaker, we answer as follows. A, the construction of the Ntunta crossing point in Kanchivia parliamentary constituency was undertaken and completed in February 2023. I must say, this question was put in November 2021, so obviously overtaken by time. Two, the construction of the Munganga crossing point in Kanchivia parliamentary constituency will commence when funds are secured. Engineering surveys have already been undertaken and the cost estimates for the required works have been submitted to the National Road Fund Agency for funding. Question B, works on construction of Ntunta crossing point were completed, while the delay in commencing the Munganga crossing point is due to funding constraints. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
The Honorable Member for Ron.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
Point of order.
Let me begin by thanking the Minister of Infrastructure.
Honorable Member, there is a point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And sorry, my brother, Honorable, for interrupting your question. It's not my... Just on a serious procedural point of order, Mr. Speaker. Tomorrow is Women's Day. I'm sure you're aware, Mr. Speaker. And I'm looking at the time and wondering when our sons, our husbands, brothers are going to have time to get gifts for the women of Zambia.
Honorable Minister, order. You said that you rise on a point of order. But now you didn't cite which chapter or standing orders has been breached and which paragraph. Because that one you have to be precise.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. 65 clause 2.
Let's see.
On content.
Okay, you can continue, Honorable
Thank
Minister.
you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, tomorrow is a very important day for women, for mothers, for wives, sisters, and aunties. And I see that the time is 18 hours. Shops will be closed. Women will have flowers, and we are expecting flowers from our sons, from our husbands, from our brothers, from honorable members of parliament who are male. So we thought that you could help the women to be recognized by ensuring that we rise on time and so they can take us for dinner. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I know the minister wanted just to bring this to light. However, her point of order is not sustained. May the honorable member for Kanchivia continue. Oh, Ron, sorry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And in that effect, to that effect, let me then begin by congratulating the Minister of Health and all the women in the Republic. A happy Women's Day. I hope one day you also congratulate us. You must also give us a Men's Day. Mr. Speaker, I want to, first of all, to thank the Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Honorable Milupi, who has been magnanimous in responding to issues. Minister, I want to thank you for according me and giving me your ear in making sure that the bridge that was a menace, that was a hassle in my constituency, has now been worked on. And I can only hope that as I come back to knock on your door, we shall provide more funding to enable us to do more works that side. In your response, Honorable Minister, you said that Munganga Bridge will only be done when funds are available. Meanwhile, Honorable Minister, people need to cross the stream. In the interim, what is your ministry hoping to do? Are you not thinking of maybe putting up some Akron bridges, if at all you have some, in your ministry, so that the people of this area can have the access to cross to and from both sides of the river? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Honorable Member for Ron for those kind words. It's a clear indication that the new Dawn government is here for the whole country. There is not a piece of this country that the new Dawn government of President Hakainde finds hostile. His direction to us as ministers is to serve each and every corner of this country. The question, just a little bit of information. Works on construction of the Ntunta crossing point were undertaken at a cost of 415, using the Constituent Development Fund. Scope of works included construction of the box culverts, graveling, and stone pitching. So this crossing point and Munganga, I think it says Munganga crossing point, are part of the Kanchivia resettlement scheme. The estimated cost for the construction of the Munganga crossing point, including the road, is 1.3 million. Now here's the answer to his question. The construction of the Munganga crossing point will be done under force account. That is, works will be undertaken in-house through the RDA regional office in Muchinga province. So, or when we say when funds are available, it's when allocation, in this particular case, when allocation to the Muchinga regional manager's office is done. Part of the constraints is every time we receive an amount, there is a big chunk, which I mentioned earlier in my statement, that goes to service some of these loans, the NAPSA loans, workman's compensation. 40% of what we receive on a monthly basis goes to that. So if we receive 80 million, and that's about what we receive every month, 35 goes to service those things. Leaves very little for emergency works, for routine maintenance, for paying legacy debt, and so on. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Chifubo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Minister, you have clearly indicated that the construction of the crossing point on the Munganga Bridge will be done when the funds are available, particularly when an allocation will be done to the regional manager for the Muchinga province. Now, would you be in position just to give a bit of some hope to the people of Kanchivia on when probably these allocations can be made? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Mr. Speaker, it's difficult to say, to give a specific time or date and time. The funds under the roads budget, if you have noticed when we came to this House for the approval of the 2023 budget, you will have noticed that those funds do not reside, that budget does not reside in the Ministry of Infrastructure, it resides elsewhere. So we constantly ask for money to be released to fund works like this one. And even then, that depends as to when those that we speak to are able to release the funds. So that's why we give the answer in the manner that we have done. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Kanchivia.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. And thank you, Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, you're a man of your words. Last time we asked about Aluni Bridge, you assured that something will be done. And I wish to confirm that there's been movement in that regard, regarding Aluni Akro Bridge. When we talk about the Munganga Bridge, Honorable Minister, the background is that the Tazara corridor is earmarked for commercial farming. The problem with Kanchivia is not a problem of water. It's not a problem with water, but of water. There are too many river bodies and what to do. When it's time to cross these rivers, when our children have to get to school, our mothers have to get attended to medical, etc., when our farmers have to transport their agricultural produce, it becomes a huge challenge. Honorable Minister, on behalf of the people of Kanchivia, and a very special message from His Royal Highness Chief Luchembe, the question they're asking is whether or not Munganga Bridge can be worked on within the year 2023. It will make a huge difference, and it's a difference, Honorable Minister, you'd wish to make in the lives of the people of Kanchivia and Munganga community. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Honorable Member for appreciating what we do when we are able to do it. And we shall continue in that vein. The amount of money remaining is 1.3 million kwacha, and I have said this will be done under force account. Force account basically means in-house. In other words, the regional manager and his team will mobilize themselves, go and put up this crossing point. It is very likely that this can be done within 2023. I don't think it's a major issue, but what the Honorable Member should do is continue doing what he has done in the past, interacting with us. That way, even as we ask for these resources and we allocate to Muchinga, we can give instructions that this particular one also be catered for. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Member for Kanchivia.
Mr. Speaker, let me thank the Minister for his assurance, and I can commit that I will continue to interact with the Honorable Minister on Munganga Bridge. This bridge is a life changer in the life of the people of Kanchivia. And Mr. Speaker, with your indulgence, on this day we've buried our mother, the wife to the senior chief in Kanchivia, Mrs. Kopa. And so this particular question comes at a very important time for the people of Kanchivia. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development.
Mr. Speaker, just to pass our condolences to Senior Chief Kopa and on the loss of the mother. But otherwise, he was just thanking us for what we have said and that he will continue to interact with us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The clerk will now read the order of the day.
Thanks, His Excellency the President's address. Motion of 28th February, resumption of debate.
When business was interrupted on Friday, 3rd March 2023, the House was considering the motion moved by the Honorable Member from Mampatizia that the thanks of this Assembly be recorded for the exposition of public policy contained in His Excellency the President's address, and the Honorable Member for Kaltua was debating. May the Honorable Member continue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And like the Minister of Health has said, I don't want to bore so much, but just give few comments so that we can quickly celebrate Women's Day. Mr. Speaker, I want to anchor my comments on the address by the President on 3 pillars only. The first pillar being the pillar that most of my colleagues commented on, that the speech, the presentation was precise And this, Mr. Speaker, reminded me one of the scholars, one of the writers by the name of Philip Kotler, who always reminded people when they are giving strategic direction that they must have acronyms KISSP, meaning keep it short, simple, and precise. That presentation, Mr. Speaker, was really precise to the point, delivering the points home and ensuring that the many things that was being discussed were the values, the national values, morality, and integrity. The second thing, Mr. Speaker, I want to talk about is really to emphasize that whatever the presentation the President made, the bottom line was encouraging this country to anchor our whatever we do on morality and national values. And I think he reminded us of how, what things we discuss on the dinner table with our children. If you look at it, Mr. Speaker, you can never achieve to fight corruption if the people you are fighting cannot turn around and embrace morals and integrity. You can never unite a country if the people that you are trying to unite are void of morals and integrity. You cannot preach real democracy until the people that are participating in that democracy are moved with morals and integrity. And it is for that reason, Mr. Speaker, that I felt that the cornerstone of the speech was to encourage, more especially, some of us that are privileged to lead people to embrace morals, integrity, and accountability as virtues that are going to bring everything that we can talk about. We can bring about good democracy if we embrace these. We can bring about change in reducing corruption and ensuring that we take the resources when we are filled with morals and integrity. And so the President was trying to shoot and ensure that people embrace this. Whatever you are going to talk about, it is all anchored on morals and integrity. And I know, Mr. Speaker, that some people questioned to say the President needed to come and report progress. And indeed, what he reported was progress. I mean, for me, the way I looked at it was mainly in 4 or 3 areas that progress was made. And progress, by Vroom's definition, is simply a step in the right direction. When you make a step in the right direction, then you have made progress. The first thing that you looked at, Mr. Speaker, is that just some years ago, we used to hear of the bands of Mukula, and people would trade illegally, videos would go around, and no arrest would be made on those that are trading. Nothing would be done. Would never hear of people going to court. And today, they say bad habits die hard. We saw some people try it on Sujilite, and today they've all been arrested. Some of them have been fired. That is progress when it comes to national values. It means that you are moving in the right direction. Just some time back, Mr. Speaker, even ministers used to be punched by cadres. You will be beaten by a cadre. Today, cadres know that if they do that, they are on their own. That is morality. That is a step in the right direction. That is progress being made. Before, Mr. Speaker, it used to be very common that today I could be holding a very high position. I'm accused of corruption, and SCCA is actually investigating me, and I still hold my position. I still have that influence to hide the investigations. Today, no, everyone knows. We have seen what has happened at the Ministry of Finance, and we continue to see that those that commit crimes and they're under investigations, they are removed to pave way for investigation. That is progress when it comes to national values. So, Mr. Speaker, I felt that the principal thing that the President came to remind us as leaders is to ensure that we embrace morality, we embrace integrity, we embrace accountability. Then only then are we going to talk about uniting the country, are we going to talk about achieving real democracy, and are we going to talk about peace and prosperity. Without wasting much of your time, Mr. Speaker, I felt that this is very critical when the President made the address to come and report the progress on national values. I thank you.
because it's Women's Day, the Honorable Member for Kasama Central.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for availing me the opportunity. Let us take honor, respect, and adore all the amazing women in our lives as we celebrate this International Women's Day. Being a woman is indeed a superpower, and I wish in particular to thank the women of Kasama Central. I wish you a happy Women's Day tomorrow. Do celebrate well with this year's theme. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. We're now looking at the motion of thanks. On page 3, it was stated that, as a nation, we still experience a high prevalence of vices such as alcohol, substance abuse, teenage pregnancy, child marriage, gender-based violence, and I still feel we forgot to mention one very key important issue: the high rate of new infections among the youth. During the period under review, government has not done well in its sensitization and its rehabilitation programs. I will further go to look at the figures because, as the President would usually tell us, numbers don't lie. 2021, we only had 217,234 of sensitization programs. Relating back to statistics, it's only 1.08%. This year, 2022 progress, yes, the numbers did go up, 523,973. In relation to the population, it's only 2.6%. Indeed, members, we are not doing well in that area, and so much more has to be done. Rehabilitation services, if we are looking at a high prevalence of alcohol, we only, as a nation, managed 1,212 citizens in 2022. In relation to the population of about 20 million, it only amounts to 0.06%. Can we really call that progress? With such low statistics, it goes to show that the majority of our citizens have a lack of knowledge, education, or any form of awareness. Once again, I wish to ask, what should come first? It is much appreciated that there will be blankets, there will be bunk beds, and mattresses that will be provided for our inmates. But when we look at the infrastructure, why didn't we start with infrastructure first? As much as we'll have beds, we'll have blankets and mattresses, where will the inmates fit? Some of these structures go to as far back as 1964. We needed to look into first having infrastructure before we can provide for all these. Because when we do go to those prisons, it's such a sorry sight. A prison space of probably 200 people is now housing 900. So even despite bunk beds going up, we're still not doing so much. When I also come to look at it, yes, free education is in place, but then we also need to look at the quality of education that is being provided. Before we look at every child having a desk, we needed to look at infrastructure. Central government needed to come in before this. Right now, what we have is quantity education instead of quality education. I also wish to look into skills training. We had 29,916 youth in 145 constituencies. On average, that is 206 learners per constituency. With 40% of the youth population coming to 8 million, 29,916 youth is only 0.37%. Can we call that to be doing well? We still have a lot more work. Yes, 0.37% of the youth population. I'm not even looking at the national population. We still have a lot of work when it comes to skills transfer. Now, yet again, skills centers. I go to Kasama. When I zero into Kasama, we only have Lukasha Trades, which is in Lukasha constituency. Right now, there is a backlog of students. We do not have enough skills centers. Government needed to look into skill centers before we go more into having all the youth receiving some of the bursaries and education. This goes to boarding schools as well. There's so much more that central government needs to help us with. CDF itself is not enough, especially in rural constituencies. We still have so much work. We are so behind in infrastructure development. I also wish to state, lastly, when the president was deliberating, when it came to prisons, it always brings about a sticky issue. There was a quoting in Bemba which says, "Ich kalipa chumfomwine," which translates to, "Some old wounds never truly heals." But I wish to encourage each and every one of us that echo temenwe chikoshe mbafu, meaning pain pays the income of each precious thing. Yes. Fellow members, when you look into this house, we are all one. For all of us who have been wounded by another and struggled to understand and move beyond our feelings of hurt and anger, forgiveness shows that it is possible to heal our land and find room in our hearts to forgive. The longer we live in the past, the less we have to enjoy in the future. Members, Mr. Speaker, I wish to retaliate that as leaders, we are key to national unity. Let us love one another. We are in this house for a purpose, to represent our people. And for as long as we stand together, love always leads. I stand here to say, one Zambia, one nation, and unity is key. I thank you.
The Honorable Member for Pemba, followed by the Honorable Member for Chiluvi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving the good people of Pemba constituency to debate the presidential speech. Mr. Speaker, the presidential speech delivered by His Excellency Mr. Hakainde Hichilema brought hope to the Zambian people. Mr. Speaker, the speech shows that we have a sober president in State House. The country is in safer hands. Mr. Speaker, allow me to focus my debate on morality and ethics. Mr. Speaker, the President informed this House that a total number of 1,212 were rehabilitated. I'm talking about those who abused drugs and alcohol. And in 2021, 810 were rehabilitated. This shows that there is progress in terms of ensuring that those who abuse drugs are rehabilitated. Mr. Speaker, this country is bleeding. There is too much abuse of alcohol and drugs. It's high time, Mr. Speaker, we worked as a team. We worked as one to help this nation to stop those who are selling cachasu. Those are spirits. Others, they call it Molini Mukia. Mr. Speaker, we need to help. We need to support the Ministry of Local Government and Urban Development. Rural Development, sorry. Mr. Speaker, there is a tendency of people complaining when they are told to stop selling kachasu. This beer, it has really disturbed or confused our youths. We are better off, Mr. Speaker, putting control or even stopping people who are selling kachasu so that the lives of our youths is preserved. Remember, Mr. Speaker, our youths are leaders of tomorrow or even today. Therefore, it is very important that the health of our youths is protected. We have heard so many people saying, "Oko tulishila abana." This is where we feed our children. We need to come up with some initiatives as we propagate to stop those who are selling kachasu. The initiatives that we need to come up with is to buy off these beers that they are selling and help these people to start businesses that will not destroy our youths. Mr. Speaker, allow me to move to national unity. Mr. Hakainde Hichilema is the #1 promoter of national unity. Mr. Speaker, the Republican President, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, has demonstrated by the appointments of cabinet ministers who come from different parts of this country. Mr. Speaker, the Republican President has demonstrated that he is a unifier by appointing DCs from different corners of this country, the permanent secretaries. It is therefore very important, Mr. Speaker, that as members of Parliament, as a nation, we emulate this sober-minded President Hakainde Hichilema. We need to unite. We need to work as a team to develop this nation. United, we stand. Divided, we fall. Mr. Speaker, there has been assertions that in the new dawn, corruption has gone up following the arrest of the presidential appointees. In contrary, Mr. Speaker, it is because in the new dawn we do not condone corruption. Those who are corrupt, they are on their own. Those who are corrupt, they are arrested. We do not hide corruption, Mr. Speaker, like what used to happen with our colleagues. Those who were corrupt, they were left scot-free. But His Excellency, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, if you are found on the wrong side of the law, you are on your own. He has told this nation, Mr. Speaker, that His Excellency, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, is going to fight the corruption of yesterday and the corruption of today and tomorrow. Mr. Speaker, I thank you. I raise my case.
The Honorable Member for Chirubi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Allow me to start addressing this speech from the manner in which it was delivered, because delivery is very important. Now you may say, oh, but may you listen from me. in parliamentary order, especially in the Commonwealth, there is what is called manner and form of doing things in looking at what. And we know that, for instance, we have also narrated to the president as members of parliament. But when you look at the speech that the president delivered and the verbatim, that variance in a manner that someone cannot even contemplate. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, I would indicate that I am at pains to actually know which one is the speech.
Order. As the time is 18:40 hours, I interrupt the proceedings and debate stands adjourned. Therefore, resumption of debate.
Thursday, Mr. Speaker.
Debate to resume on Thursday. The House is now adjourned.
Good evening. There you have it. Business for the day has come to a close. Business resumes on Thursday, that's after tomorrow. Time now to look at business that has been considered on the floor of the House starting at 14:30. Mr. Speaker did make an announcement. He did say that he had received communication to the effect that in the absence of our Honour the Vice President, who is attending to other government business, the Honourable Minister of Defence, Honourable Ambrose Lufuma, has been appointed acting leader of government business in the House from today, Tuesday, 7th March 2023, until further notice. Mr. Speaker did make another announcement. He did guide the House on two important rules of the procedure, namely points of order and matters of urgent public importance under Standing Order 131 and 134, respectively. Thereafter, Mr. Speaker did permit the Minister of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development to render